Arsenal go into the PSV second leg with a 7-1 lead, but they might have a big crisis on their hand with a huge ticketing issue that's going on at Arsenal right now. We will get into all of that today on the Arsenal versus PSV second leg preview pod. Stick around to hear all of that and more on this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. Yes, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. I hope wherever you are well, and you are looking forward to tomorrow night's second leg game against PSV. Not much jeopardy in it, let's be honest. 7-1, I think even if we lose the game, we're probably not going to lose by 6 or more goals. I hope. I mean, I'm sure PSV said the same, but I really hope that is not a scenario that we are facing on Thursday morning. But as I sit here right now on Tuesday morning, I remain fairly confident we'll get through. Whether we'll like the performance, whether we'll win the individual game, that's a different question, and I will come on to that towards the end. This is going to be a 3-part podcast. Like you heard at the start, I'm going to be answering the question, do we have a ticketing crisis going on at Arsenal? I'm going to answer that in the middle. At the end, I'm going to do a little bit of a preview of the game, who I think will line up for us in this kind of weird game where we can rotate, but it's still a Champions League knockout round, so you've got to be careful that you don't go and get a hiding. But also at the start today, I just want to reflect a little bit back on the Manchester United game. In my review pod, I did that as sort of an instant reaction, which is a little bit different, and there's been some stuff come out since that I want to talk about, notably pieces from James McNicholas and especially Jamie Carragher. And let's start there, shall we? Now, I'm not a big fan of Jamie Carragher. I will hold my hands up, but I think he is right in his assertions that he did on Monday Night Football before the West Ham Newcastle game, that a number 9 is not the only solution to Arsenal's issues. And I guess it's not the only problem that we need a solution to, is probably a better way of phrasing that. We have a creation issue. James McNicholas has highlighted this in The Athletic as well, and on Arsblog this week. And I think there's a really interesting graphic from Sky Sports going around. So basically, they have taken Arsenal's last 3 seasons, from 2022-23 to this season, and they've plotted them against all of the Premier League teams in this season, 24-25. And they've gone expected goals and along the bottom axis and expected goals against along the y-axis. Now, this is a hard thing to visualise on a podcast, but what I can basically tell you is we're up towards the top right. And that is basically where the best teams will live, with a low expected goals against and a high expected goals for. The highest of those two is 23-24. That really is only bested in its totality by Liverpool this season, who are basically way out in the kind of best position. They've got over 2 expected goals a game and less than 1 expected goals against a game. So that they're having a magnificent season. Like I say, 23-24, us, we might have competed with them maybe. Unfortunately, this year, our defensive record remains the same. We're not exactly the same, but very, very good. We have the best expected goals against of this season. But our expected goals are more in line with a Crystal Palace or a Brentford. And that's not to disparage or disrespect those teams, but obviously we have a far greater resource to pull on than those players. And those teams, and we have a different set of targets, don't we? We're looking to win the Premier League. Those guys are seeking, for Palace, they're probably seeking survival and a good, strong mid-table finish. Brentford might really have aspirations towards qualifying for Europe one day. So I think that's a real issue, isn't it? Because we are competing in an attacking sense with teams who really are kind of 8-9 places below us in terms of their aspirations. And teams like Liverpool are way ahead of us. The teams that are currently beating us this year on expected goals per game, Newcastle, Manchester City, Tottenham, Bournemouth, Chelsea and Liverpool. So that puts us 7th. 7th, very, very close to Crystal Palace. So 7th, 8th really. It's an issue, isn't it? It's an issue. And both Carragher and James McNicholas make great points. We have a creativity issue. In the Manchester United game, we had an expected goals of 1.62 from 17 shots. That's not great. That's not great. It's less than 0.1 kind of expected goals per shot, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. We did create 2 big chances, which obviously we missed both of those, and we did score from a low XG moment from Declan Rice. But, 17 shots, I think if a Liverpool team are having 17 shots, more often than not, they're at least racking up 2 expected goals, because they're creating a higher quality of chance. And this is what everyone is talking about at the moment. We can't just go and sign Isak and go, everything's fixed, okay? I actually don't think we have the money to go and sign Isak. I don't think that is something that's going to happen this summer. So we probably need to kind of put that out of our psyche a little bit and forget about it. What we do need is a striker. We need a striker. Jesus is out for a very long time now. Havertz, brilliant player, can't do it on his own. He cannot be burdened in the way he's been this year. We need to take some of that pressure off of Havertz and find a player who can rotate in with him, work with him, and share some of that 1 minute's load, because we ask our number 9 to do a ton of running. You've seen it with Mikel Merino as he's come in to cover for Havertz. The distance that our number 9 covers is extraordinary, whether it's Havertz or Merino. So we need to have players in there fresh and able to do that role. So we do need a striker, but it's not going to solve everything, because we can't leave Ødegaard as our only creative force. I will say on the flip side of this, we need to make sure we're not making too many conclusions from a season that is just weird, right? We don't have Saka right now, we don't have Havertz, so our numbers are going to drop. Our expected goals, the stats I've just quoted, they're going to have been affected by the number of red cards we've had, the amount of time we've been without players like Saka and Ødegaard. We had a long period without Ødegaard and took us a little while to figure out how to play without him. And then obviously he's come back and he has been without Bukayo Saka. And we did have a short period where they were both available and we looked really good. And that was kind of the highlight of the season, really, that period where we beat Nottingham Forest and we beat Sporting, and I think we put 5 past Palace with Jesus playing very well in that game. That was a nice period of the season where we thought we were going to kick on from, but more injuries have obviously scuppered that. I think what we're looking at next year is we have 4 creative players available to us. And when I say creative, I mean is capable of creating a moment from nothing. So Ødegaard definitely one, Saka another, Nwaneri another, and I've included Havertz in this because I do think he has the ability to drop in and create chances for other players. I just think we ask him to do a lot of work, and actually sometimes he's kind of on the end. He's scored 15 goals this year and he's been out for a month now, so pardon me, he is a great player, and I do think you can include him in a team or a group of our team that can create and make chances and make goals as well, make assists. That's not enough though, because you're not going to get Nwaneri starting every single game, I don't think. So we need to add, for me, one more creative player from the midfield, a lethal finisher, whether that be a lethal finisher up front or a lethal finisher from the wing to replace Martinelli. And then that informs your next signing of, if you're signing a lethal finisher from the left wing, you probably buy a more kind of industrial forward who is there to share minutes with Havertz and facilitate that left winger. Or if you sign a winger who is less of a finisher, more of a creator, you have to sign a lethal finisher striker. And there I think you get into the arguments of, if you sign someone to replace Martinelli, do you get an Ekitike who might facilitate that person a little bit more? Or if you sign a more of a Nico Williams, let's say, who is more of a facilitator from the left, you probably sign a Benjamin Sesko, who's more of a penalty box player who is going to score you goals. I think we absolutely need that, and that's where I'm at with these pieces that have come out that are quite right. It's not just a striker. One player from the midfield needs to be added. One, because I think Nwaneri he's been burdened this year big time, but I think his position next year will be from the bench, and that will be coming on and taking time off Bukayo Saka, because he's clearly at the moment in this stage in his career a better right winger than he is a left 8, or right 8 I should say, and I think as well, he can come in and learn the Ødegaard role in games where it's kind of done. And if we're 2-3 up, he can come on and get 20 minutes learning that role and gradually progress towards that role. But where he gets the bulk of his minutes is in a role where we've seen him this year play much better, I think, at right wing. So, we've got him, and then we need to add one more. For me, we need to add one more because at the moment, the left 8 position, Declan Rice is obviously shit hot form right now. Absolutely brilliant, playing so well. But we need an alternative, I think. For me, Declan Rice playing in a game like the game against Manchester United, yes, he scored, and I get that, and he actually was our best player from the left 8 position. But I think he could do at least some of that from the 6 role, and have a more creative player in the left 8. At the moment, I think we are relying on Declan Rice's will to win, will to get us back into games, his ability to be a jack of all trades, right? What I would rather see is us play, when someone is playing a back 5 against us, play Ødegaard and another creative midfielder in that left 8, play Rice at 6, and then we can move it from there. And then in those more difficult games, you do play Ødegaard and Rice in the 8s and Zubimendi, let's say, if he comes in. What this is highlighting to me is we have tons of work to do, because this is not just a case of let's go and get defensive midfielders to replace Partey and Jorginho and go and get a striker in the summer. We do need more attacking talent from the midfield and more creative talent from the midfield. We've finally solved the solution of who is the backup for Bukayo Saka, but we haven't solved our left side problem with the left wingers, and we have not solved our finishing and attacking midfield options. So there's tons to do in the summer. I think it's really interesting, the pieces that have come out this week around us not having enough creation from the middle. Let's go and get someone. I mean, if you follow Scott Willis from Cannon Stats on Blue Sky, you will have seen his piece about Arsenal's Zone 14 passing. That is the central zone of the pitch, right in front of the penalty box. And so much of that passing is kind of out wide. And I guess, for the majority of games, it will be out wide, but there's just not enough penetrative from the middle, driving balls straight into the box for someone to run onto, or going over the top for someone to run onto, and score a goal. That's where we're going to get the majority of our goals from, inside the width of the 6-yard box. That's where every team gets the majority of their goals from. You either have to be able to cross it really, really well, which we can do, but most teams now are playing so deep against us and creating overloads in that area with centre-backs and defensive midfielders that makes that very difficult. So we need to be able to get into Zone 14, unlock that area and play a ball through. Even get in that area for cutbacks as well. That's, I think, is really important. So all of that to say, yes, the Manchester United game was rough, but I think it just highlights more of what we've got to do this summer. A midfielder, a winger, a lethal finisher, and some defensive midfielders. We have a lot to do, and let's hope that we can clear some of that wage bill and potentially to give us the funds to do that. Partey, Jorginho, maybe Zinchenko, Tierney, lots of players potentially moving on. Neto and Sterling obviously returning to their clubs. I mean, that's another one, right? We need another backup keeper. So there's lots going on, and just looking back at the Manchester United game, I think it is a perfect description of the things that we need. We needed a finisher to pull something out of the hat, but we also needed creative players to go and do something, create better chances. 1.62 from 17 shots. Not ideal. On to the PSV game then, and like I mentioned at the top, I want to talk about the ticketing crisis going on at Arsenal right now. Crisis, you might say, is a bit of a strong word, but I think this is what we're looking at. There is a lot of chat online right now about this fixture, and I think Champions League fixtures in general. And I think there's two parts to this crisis. This is the first part. The second is the ticket price rises that were recently announced. So I think they're both related. So let's talk about them. All Champions League fixtures are down as Category A fixtures at the moment. Now, I understand a little bit of that logic. I do. Look, we are buying tickets to watch a massive team, one of the favourites for the competition, or at least were at the start of the year, one of the favourites for the competition, play in the biggest competition that there is, biggest club competition that there is in the world. So they are not going to be cheap tickets. We are not going to be picking these up for 10, 15, 20 quid. You can barely get a burger at Arsenal for 10, 15, 20 quid at the moment. But we have made every single Champions League game, regardless of opponent, a Category A fixture. Now, for some, we are more than happy to pay that. I attended the Porto game last year, the second leg, tons of jeopardy, paid the Cat A price. I think my ticket was around £110, which is a lot of money. I'm going to come out with that now and say, actually, I'm very privileged that I can spend £110 to go and watch a game of football live. That is a real privilege of mine. So I really want to emphasise that. Not everyone will be able to pay that, and it's very, very sad that the state of football has got to where it is, and we are spending so much. But I was able to spend that on a game that had jeopardy. We ended up watching a penalty shootout in extra time, so I felt like for the most part got my money's worth. However, right now what we're seeing for this second leg of the PSV game is tons and tons of tickets are being returned, and I think with good reason. The cheapest ticket available right now on the ticket exchange is £75. So £75, someone is currently looking to recoup that money from their ticket based on the fact that actually there is no jeopardy on this game, and I guess it should never really have been a Cat A in the first place. PSV, with no disrespect to them, that's not a Bayern Munich game. That's not a Real Madrid game. And what we've got is a scenario where Arsenal have said, you know what, Real Madrid at home, potentially the next round, is exactly the same as PSV at home. What's compounded this is obviously the fact that we've won 7-1 in the first leg. Now, I appreciate they can't really retrospectively change the categorisation, but this is the part of the reason why so many people are handing these tickets back. I think if we have a second leg against Real Madrid, and in a dreamland, we are 7-1 up from the first leg at the Bernabeu, just as an example. I'm not saying we're going to do that. I think people still go because you say £75 to go and watch a Real Madrid team, even when there's no jeopardy on the game. I think you pay it. I think you pay that because it's an event. It feels special. If we were bringing Barcelona or Bayern Munich to the Emirates, people would pay that regardless of the jeopardy. PSV, I think Arsenal have set this trap for themselves because they obviously couldn't predict that we would win 7-1, but the moment that there was no jeopardy on the second leg, people want their money back. This is no longer a game that has something to make it worth paying the extraordinary amounts for a Category A fixture. I really, really think Arsenal have got this wrong, and it would be something that I would love to see Arsenal remedy next year, because every Champions League game being a Category A fixture is really not good, and I really worry about the atmosphere tomorrow night. Usually when you go on the ticket exchange, it is incredibly difficult. There are no tickets going back up. You might get lucky, you might just be on the ticket exchange at the right time and get your ticket and be able to grab one, but it is so difficult. Right now I'm scrolling through pages and pages of tickets that are being handed back for people who are trying to get their money back, trying to sell it to another Arsenal fan. And look, this is a great opportunity. If you're not a season ticket holder and you're not someone who gets to go to the Emirates regularly, this is a fantastic opportunity. And I put myself in that camp. I grew up not crazy close to the stadium, but in the general area, and could go quite a lot. I have moved away since, and I can no longer go as much. However, I can't justify this. £75, I've got to get the train as well. This is a scenario lots of these kind of more remote fans are in, where this is a huge opportunity to go to the game, to go and spend some time in London and soak up the atmosphere. I can't justify £75 for a game where, actually, I'm not even sure the Emirates is going to be full tomorrow night. That's where we're at because of the decisions that have been made. I really don't think for a second leg of a Champions League knockout tie, we're going to be able to fill our stadium. And that is not something you would have said about Arsenal a little while ago. Prices, yes, play into it. The kind of the atmosphere around the team also plays into it, of course. But it's really, really difficult, isn't it, for us to look at these tickets and go, yeah, I'm going to go and get them and take advantage of the opportunity. Just out of interest, I've scrolled down to the most expensive ticket that's currently up on the ticket exchange. and I cannot believe my eyes. Halfway line seats, row 2, £372. I'm blown away by that figure. I mean, no wonder whoever has put that back up wants their money back and wants to get that back. Because to spend £372 on a ticket for a game that is 7-1 against, no offence to them, PSV Eindhoven, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And this is where I think Arsenal do have the start of a ticketing crisis. That price is incredible. It would be incredible if it had been 1-1 in the first leg against Real Madrid and we were bringing them back with an opportunity to knock them out in a historic moment for the club. That would be an incredible price, and I would still forgive people for saying, actually, I kind of want to give this ticket back because I need nearly 400 quid. Against PSV, with 7-1, this is a horror situation Arsenal found themselves in, and it's one that wholly could have been prevented by ensuring that they don't just blanket assign Category A to Champions League games. It's really, really disappointing. As well as 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago or a week ago, we heard the news that Arsenal are going to raise their ticket prices. It was last week, between 3 and 5%. Now, the club have said that's in response to the rising costs. We've had big players come in, big wages come in. Our player wages have grown by about 40%. So they've lifted the ticket prices. And I look, football is a business. As much as we as fans view our club as special and sacred, and for a lot of us it's like our church, right? It's the place that we centre our weekend around, and we feel like we 100% should have this romantic notion of our team, of our club. But it is a business, and we can't on one hand say, I don't want to spend tons of money on tickets, but I also want Alexander Isak. You know, you kind of have to balance those ideas. I do understand why they've edged them up, but you can see already from the ticket prices that I've quoted that actually this, you know, if you keep edging them up like this, it's going to become entirely unaffordable for the average fan. And the stadium is going to become more and more corporate, more and more businessy, whereas tickets are used to schmooze commercial clients for companies and stuff like that. It's a really difficult position we're in now with these ticket prices, because you get scenarios like the PSV game where everything has gone wrong for Arsenal in that scenario and they've backed themselves into the corner. Then they're also in a really hard place with balancing their most important revenue stream, which is gate receipts, and balancing the prices there with success on the pitch. And, you know, teams like Liverpool, West Ham, Brentford and Wolves have all frozen their prices for next season. Arsenal have increased them, and I think two things can be true at the same time. I can understand that there is a logic and a reason behind ticket prices going up because football is a business, but I also think actually we've probably hit breaking point with this now. If they go up again next year, I don't know at all what the average fan would do. Because looking at some of those ticket prices for PSV, it's quite incredible. And I'll come to a conclusion on this just before I go for a break, in the sense that I do think, you know, from next season, Arsenal need to be really sensible. They need to be really sensible and look at this PSV scenario and say, actually, we can't blanket make these Category A. I think if this is a Category B, or maybe, well, Category B, C, it's probably never going to be a C, but let's take it to a Category B. And I can find a 50 quid ticket or a 40 quid ticket on there. I'm going tomorrow night. But equally, I guess, there probably wouldn't be people handing them back, you know, so there's that to and fro between that scenario. But, you know, we would have a full stadium, I think, if it was 40, 50 quid on average for a ticket tomorrow night. And Arsenal could have done that if they made sure they had flexibility in their categorisation for Champions League matches. And furthermore, I think especially if we don't generate big prize money next year, you know, by winning the league or winning the Champions League, how do we balance the increase in player costs, player wages that we all want as fans with the ticket prices? You know, we are going to have to win something soon to balance that off and be more careful with the fans' money. Or, God forbid, make a big sale. I think one of those two things, something's going to have to give somewhere. because it is becoming completely unsustainable for fans. I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, I'm going to do a PSV preview and a bit of a lineup prediction. Hello everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're like me, you finished watching an Arsenal game and you're already looking for the next bit of Arsenal coverage you can find. If that sounds like you, follow or subscribe to Arsenal Unfiltered on your podcast app of choice right now to make sure you don't miss a single episode from me. I'm here 3 times a week, reviewing matches and covering Arsenal news, and I'm so excited to have you all here as well. Thank you very much. Welcome back to this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, where we are previewing the second leg between Arsenal and PSV. In the first half, you will have heard me talk about Manchester United and the fallout from that game, and some of the pieces that have come out highlighting our need for creative players, not just a striker, and then about our ticketing crisis with the PSV game being a Category A fixture, plus the annual increase in ticket price rises. Very, very concerning scenes at the moment with the ticketing situation. I think that's going to affect the atmosphere tomorrow night versus PSV. Like I said a couple of times in this podcast, there's no jeopardy on it. And there are absolutely tons of tickets available on the ticket exchange. So I think it is highly likely we do not see a filled out Emirates Stadium for tomorrow night, which will be a shame. It will be a shame because we worked so hard for a long period to come back into Europe's Premier competition, to come back into the Champions League and play knockout round games. We wanted that for a long time, and because of some of the club's decisions, I think one of these games is going to basically be a non-event and not have much atmosphere. Just a note, I think PSV have sold out all of their away allocations, so fair play to them. I think it's around 2,500 tickets that they get for an away Champions League game. Like I mentioned, I've been to the Porto game, I've been to the Manchester City game recently. That away section is always rowdy at the Emirates. I hate that we give them pitch side, I really do. And I expect PSV fans, even though they are 7-1 down from the first leg, to make a lot of noise. PSV have since won their game midweek against, I'm going to try and say it, Herenveen. They won 2-1 whilst we drew 1-1 to Manchester United, so they've had a little bit of a bounce back. They needed it, to be fair. And I think they are going to be right up for this. They will view this now as a bit of a free hit, because if they lose, no one's going to be talking about it. It's going to be like, okay, well, you were 7-1 down from the first leg. Did you really expect to turn it around when you go away? Like, did you expect anything to be different? If they win, they can go away with their heads held high. I like I said at the top, I don't see them getting through. That would take an almighty collapse, and it's probably a collapse that I think Arteta is going to pick too strong a lineup for that to happen. I think if they win the individual tie, they'll walk away with something, and we will be looking at our team going, "Oh, we are not doing great here." That will be like 1 win in 5, I think, 5 or 6. And it will be a tough position to be in for Arsenal going into the Chelsea game and then the international break. I think it's a weird one. It's going to be a really weird one between the potential lack of atmosphere, the PSV they'll have some hopes and aspirations for it, and just the fact that it feels like it might be a bit, Arsenal can't win, really. If we beat them, let's say 2-0, everyone's going to go, well, yeah, you beat them 7-1, okay, whatever. It's sort of a nothing thing. There's no pressure on you. You've just carried on. But if we lose the tie, or the match, I should say, people are going to be going, okay, you've got through, but how have you lost against PSV at home? Like, potentially another stodgy performance. Personally, I don't see that happening. I think what's most likely is a very boring score draw. PSV will come out all guns blazing, wanting to prove something, and they'll have their away end, like I mentioned, firing up and ready for the potential not giant killing, but a win against a big team. And but I think we saw from the first leg, when we get space against teams, we can do them damage. So I think we'll score. I think it might be the kind of scenario where it's a 2-2 or a 1-1, and we won't remember this game. Unfortunately, I don't see us winning because of the atmosphere issues, which is going to be really disappointing. Let's just talk about whether we're going to rotate, because there is an opportunity here. to rotate players given the strength of our position from the first leg and get some players some more minutes in their legs and maybe just freshen things up a little bit. I think there's two reasons why we won't do much of it. We don't have enough players to rotate in who are at the level. That's where we're at. If we had our 4 attacking players, our 3 attacking players now, because Martinelli's back. So if we had Saka, Havertz and Jesus, you might see Jesus coming in for Havertz. You might see Trossard coming in for Martinelli for something like that. If Martinelli had been playing regularly, and you might see Saka on the bench. But because we don't have that, players are going to have to play that have been playing. The one player that I think we will see start is Raheem Sterling. It will be very difficult for him to be snubbed again for this game. Kieran Tierney obviously came on ahead of him in the Manchester United game, and that's been a big topic since on podcasts, in mainstream media, of kind of Arteta just ignoring Raheem Sterling at this point, and with justification, I believe, but he is not turning to him for anything right now. I think if he snubbed him for a game where we're already 7-1 up, that would be a complete breakdown of the relationship. I really don't know how that relationship is even now. So, a snub for this game would be very, very, very bad for Raheem Sterling. And I think would basically end his season. I don't think we'd see him again in any meaningful way, unless, another terrible injury happened. So I think we will see him start. I think we'll see him start alongside Mikel Merino and Leandro Trossard up front, and maybe we see Gabriel Martinelli get more minutes, maybe a half or something like that. A preemptive sub to get him ready for the Chelsea game. I can't see him starting just yet, but hopefully we can get some minutes from out of him. In the midfield, we really can't take Ødegaard out because we would be completely without an attacking threat from the midfield. There might be an argument to say, well, if you're starting with Sterling on the left, can you start Nwaneri in the 8? I don't like it because I think we've seen in a couple of games Nwaneri cramping very early in a game, and I think it would be good just to sit him down for a bit. Same with Miles Lewis-Skelly. These guys are having an incredibly tough first season, both physically and emotionally. They are doing a huge amount for this team at 18 years and 17 years old, respectively. Let's give him a night off. Yeah, we're going to want him against Chelsea. We're going to want him fresh against Chelsea. He's going to have a difficult day against Cucurella. No matter what you say, Cucurella is an experienced guy, and I think he will be able to manage Nwaneri. So we need Nwaneri to be fresh. Let's sit him down. So we'll put Ødegaard in there. I can't see Rice not playing because Marino's going to have to play up front. He's not going to put Partey into the left 8. So I think it will be Rice. But I think the other player who will come in is Jorginho. Again, similar. Thomas Partey has been good this year, but physically always needs a rest. We were always concerned about Thomas Partey a little bit physically. Jorginho needs to be integrated and kept within the group because we might need him. And, he's a sensible guy. He's a very experienced head. This might be an opportunity for him just to kind of get in there and remind people of some of these principles that we need to be doing. Back 4, Raya in goal, obviously. Back 4, I think Ben White will start this game. I think there's probably an opportunity to get him some minutes, kind of 55, 60 minutes here. So I think he'll come in at right back and they'll recognise the need to give Jurrien Timber a break. At least one of Saliba and Gabriel will start. And where I've written this down, I've rolled the dice on both will start, Saliba and Gabriel. I think there is a world where Kivior comes in and plays a little bit, but then that will affect kind of the left back scenario. So I think if Kivior plays left centre-back and Gabriel's on the bench, you see one of Ricardo Calafiori or Miles Lewis-Skelly. But I think if Gabriel plays, which I think is more likely, because I think the trust in Kivior is quite low from Arteta right now, you'll see Zinchenko, I think. I don't think you see Miles Lewis-Skelly or Ricardo Calafiori if we can justify a Gabriel start. That being said, I think all of those players that I've kind of rotated out, Partey, Nwaneri, Gabriel or Miles Lewis-Skelly, Calafiori or Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Timber, all those players I've taken out, I think will come on and play some minutes. The players that are coming in are not fit enough to do full 90s right now, so we're going to have to manage everyone's minutes. That's where I see it being. Let's recap that. Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Ødegaard, Rice, Sterling, Merino, Trossard. That's what I think the lineup will be. And I think the atmosphere could be really, really issue. I'm going to put my flag on the ground and say it's going to be a 1-1 draw tomorrow night. I think we will get space, but I think the atmosphere from our fans will be difficult, and there might be some kind of negative feeling in the ground, with the atmosphere being, well, empty, let's say that, right? And the PSV fans will be right up for making a lot of noise and being the loudest group in the stadium. So I think they will have momentum and they'll want to prove something from the first leg. So 1-1 is my prediction. I don't think that will be an appetising position going into the Chelsea game. That will be a 1-1 draw against Manchester United, a 1-1 draw against PSV, a 0-0 draw against Nottingham Forest, a 1-0 defeat to West Ham, a rusty 2-0 win against Leicester. You know, it's not a good run of form Arsenal are in. Obviously, you've got the 7-1 in there as well, but I think that's a bit more of an exception that proves the rule. I'm going to leave it there, guys. That's the kind of very loose preview of the PSV game. I look forward to doing the match review on Thursday morning, and you'll have that Thursday during the day. And then, of course, a big game against Chelsea. I'm really looking forward to the international break. I never say that, but I just think I'm not looking forward to the break itself. I'm looking forward to what it might mean for our players. It's another kind of 10 days, 2-week period without games where Saka might, progress a little bit more and Martinelli might progress a little bit more, so we can get them back to a sub role and a starting role respectively. We're obviously not going to see Havertz or Jesus for the rest of the year, which is disappointing. But those two, we can be excited for them coming back and hopefully adding a little bit of firepower into our attack. And, this is a tough period of games. We need to get through it. If we beat PSV tomorrow night, which I'm not sure we will, but if we beat them, it'll be a much stronger footing to go into the Chelsea game. And I just wonder if Chelsea might give us a little bit more space than Manchester United gave us. Chelsea will be more keen on attacking and having a go. So you just never know in that scenario. But of course, I will be reviewing and previewing all of these games here at Arsenal Unfiltered. Like I said in the middle, if you've enjoyed this episode or any episode, please consider giving Arsenal Unfiltered a follow or a review wherever you get your podcasts from. It really, really helps us out. All that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.